Danimals Crush Cups have become a big part of nostalgia that came out of the end of the 2000s. If you were a kid around this time like I was, you will remember just how amazing these 4-ounce crushable yogurts were. There's some coupons at the local market. My mom had gotten me 3 packs of the strawberry smash flavor around its release, and let me just tell you, I have been looking for that type of consistency in yogurts for years. How you could just slurp it down, but it was also kind of fizzy, that didn't taste like most yogurts, probably due to its higher sugar content, which I will get more into later in this video. Danimals Crush Cups would be a smash hit with kids because of its appeal through commercials with Dylan and Cole Sprouse from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, as well as The Sweet Life on Deck, which aired on Disney at the time, but it was also because of its approach with parents as the convenience of crushing a cup to get more nutrition without the hassle of wasting water or adding more plastic, since most yogurts required a spoon would be its consumer interest. However, the Crush Cups would be short-lived, and by the 2010s, they would be phased out of market shelves. What would happen to Danimals Crush Cups, and was its disappearance due to the lack of interest within consumers, or was it because of its convenience factor that left parents somewhat upset with how messy getting yogurt out of a crushable cup could be? These delicious snacks, known as Danimals Crush Cups, would be a movement within grocery stores that it would leave us millennials and Gen Z craving for more. Boy, does this video really make me feel old. The concept of this slurpable yogurt was a interesting piece of the 90s and early 2000s. Now, most people know that Danimals brand hit the shelves in the mid-90s by Danone or Danone, who has been a big player within the yogurt market. I have to note that they don't just make yogurts, as their product lines are a vast range of dairy goods, including some of the coffees you drink as well as baby formulas. But the Danimals brand itself would come into the picture due to the 90s uprising of more colorful and teal palettes within the consumer market. I mean, just take a look at the Gushers commercials from around that time and you will see what type of acid everyone was on. This would lead Danimals to become a smash hit within the ages of 5 to 12, as that would be the demographic for sales. However, it wasn't until the 2000s when Danimals would really take off because of its advertising appeal within pop culture. How many commercials do you remember from the 2000s that featured your favorite childhood star, or what about that one commercial from Chef Boyardee of the rolling cans? It is no wonder why there is so much nostalgia from that time. This would give way to the success of Crush Cups in the late 2000s. After the mid-2000s, yogurt and spoon could not be in the same sentence. Consumers were looking for more of an on-the-go appeal, and Crush Cups offered that convenience. The interesting side of how these unforgettable snacks hit the shelves would be revolutionary. Through some digging online, the idea and study was to create a new technology to give consumers less hassle and be more favorable towards someone's time in the early 2000s. But it was also to save on plastic waste. This Crush Cup technology would be introduced in New Zealand around 2006 under Fonterra, sorry if I butchered that name, within dairy markets. Obviously, the goal was convenience. This technology would be licensed to Danone around that time and hit their production line, which gave way to the Dylan and Cole Sprouse commercials, as well as the crushable appeal. In a Packaging World article, it could be stated that customers accepted crushable cups due to its innovation and design, but realistically, the advertisements for the snack were its big selling point. Now, reading into this further, it does look like some of its success was due to the marketing around the plastics used, as it would be made with thinner pleated sidewalls for crushing to consume that yogurt sweetness. But this convenience and the lack of a spoon would lead to its downfall, and by the 2010s, the Crush Cups would fade from markets' shelves. Danimals Crush Cups would be quietly pulled from stores after the 2010s, leaving for some unanswered questions. Why were these beloved snacks scrapped after a short amount of time, and were they actually unhealthy? There were some comments of these articles that I had read. Some parents would state how concerned they were that the Crush Cup technology had used number 6 plastics, which had been banned in a few cities, and its main consumer, which were kids, were eating from this toxic 4-ounce container. container. Going one step further, other parents wouldn't really praise the on-the-go no spoon narrative because of the mess they would have to clean after, as most kids, including myself in that time, would crush the cup so hard that it would become a game on how far or how messy you could get. Now, around this time, consumer goods were being heavily explored for their sugary content because of the obesity epidemic plaguing the 2000s, and Danimals or Danin would be no exception. This would in return cause the brand to have less sugars and less fatty content in their product line, which caused the Crush Cup to fade. Now, you might think that less plastics would be more beneficial towards the consumer's wallet, but it was actually that design of the Crush Cup that made it more difficult to produce, as it was more niche and less integrated to other yogurt products in the line. These factors in the yogurt market would lead to Crush Cup's downfall. While we still wish for that one last goodbye with Danimals Crush Cups, I can see why they were a big part of the late 2000s and early 2010s. They were my childhood because I was a cool kid on the block to have had them, and while you still can see them on Uber Eats for some reason, their true lineage can be found in Danimal pouches. So, do I want Crush Cups to come back? Yes and no. Nostalgia obviously plays a role here, but we also need to see the health factor into what made this yogurt so desirable. The production of this cup can be questionable, especially with the sugar content. With that being said, what do you remember about the Danimals Crush Cups? Were they an important part of your childhood as well, or were they just a crush?